Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. This is the Fan Forum, proudly brought to you by the Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram and also Northern Cleaning Solutions. Great to have them on board. What a day. What an absolute roller coaster of a day. Let's get my headphones right. Sorry, guys. The way that today's unfolded and the stories that have come out has been an absolute shit show, to be honest. The sources that I've got and the stuff that's coming out is pretty legit, and just the narrative of the media. And let's just cut straight to the chase before I get people on and before we talk about other stuff and whatever. Clayton Oliver could sign for GWS 100%. It is still a 50-50 game. So, but for the love of God, do not jump the gun. Do not jump the gun early. We've got heaps of people in the usual suspects room. We've got Mello, we've got Bozza, we've got Stephanos, Ben Zero has joined. So it's all full on already. Swoop Luke was going to come on for a chat, but he has been roped into a dinner tonight, so that's perfectly good and understandable. I do apologize for not coming on at 8:30. I also had some family stuff on also tonight, which I had to attend to. So, but the show goes on. The show absolutely 110% goes on, and we don't stop. The link to jump on is there in the chat. I already do have a couple of people on, which is fantastic. So we will start very soon. But first and foremost, before I do all my stuff, I've got to give you this tonight. I just have to give it to you tonight.
Shame on anyone to boot a champion.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Okay, so the first jab tonight, it just goes out to the journos, like I already said before. The first one obviously was the non-story about Bobby Hill being traded. So there's three of them. There's three parts of this. The first one was the non-story about Bobby Hill. Collingwood were never going to trade him. There was a world where, as a Collingwood supporter, you think, do we trade Bobby Hill for the sake of his well-being, going back to his family, going back to Perth, getting his stuff sorted out, and then the best thing for the club is to get potentially 2 first-rounders or a first-rounder and a couple of second-rounders or a first-rounder and a player? Do we try and get for, do we try and do a deal with West Coast for that pick too, so we can put ourselves in a really good spot? I mean, you'd be stupid as a Collingwood supporter not to have those thoughts. However, the club has unequivocally come out I think that's the right word to use, has come out so many times and said Bobby Hill is not up for sale, for trade, or anything like that at all. Lepich has come out and said we've signed him for 5 years. He's a Collingwood player, and you can tell he's obviously trying to get on the front foot. You can tell he's trying to do his absolute best to, pretty much start his preseason straight away. So, I mean, what more could you actually want in that sense? The second of my first jabs, out of absolutely nowhere, clubs have approached Nick Daicos. Where did this come from? Out of nowhere. Slow news day. There's been no word on Clayton Oliver for Collingwood just yet. There's no stories coming in. Braden Free-Rennie's gone to Essendon. Flanders has picked St Kilda. There's not much news coming through. Someone's gone from Fremantle to Carlton or from Melbourne to North or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden it's, let's make up a story about Nick Daicos. Let's be real about the whole thing. Of course, clubs are going to, in time, they're going to ask, what the situation with Nick Daicos is. Is it because apparently Peter stormed out of the thing? I mean, it's just it sucks the life out of you because it's just it's sort of becoming like the English Premier League when you've got the Sun newspaper, just the tabloid thing, Peter Daicos walked out of the Copeland Trophy. Maybe he had diarrhea, maybe he had to go, take a leak or something, or maybe he was just tired or wanted to get some fresh air and he left. I'm sorry. I just think it's stupid. I think it's ridiculous that they're making up that story. And then the last one out of nowhere. So what have I I think it was the Jordan De Goey one from John Ralph. Like there was no one has said anything about Jordan De Goey. He was at the Copeland Trophy with his missus. They're expecting a baby. The bloke's looking forward to the next season. Nobody has said anything to anyone about Jordan De Goey. And the weird part was in the tweet, he actually implied that. No one said anything yet, but what? It's a washy space. Why is it a washy space? For what reason? Why is it a washy space out of nowhere for Jordan De Goey? So apparently Bobby Hill's gone, Nick Dacos is gone, and Jordan De Goey's gone. Tell me now something. Tell me something now. We just sell headlines. So why wouldn't players want to come to the Collingwood Football Club? Because I can tell you now, Butters has spoken to the club and he wants to get out of there pretty quickly, but obviously he can't. Clayton Oliver is a 50-50. It's still a 50-50. Why? Because he had a passing comment to Bedford on the weekend on the phone. Yeah, I'm going to come and check out your team, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, he's going to choose GWS. And we'll talk about that with people. The link is up on the chat. So jump in. People are already commenting stuff. Ben Zero's in. Evening chat. Sean's in. We'll get to Sean in a minute because he's obviously waiting. Chris has said Nick Dacos think reeks of journos, knowing there will be no big trades this year. I think that's the case. I think the only biggest one is the Clayton Oliver one. Obviously, Collingwood again are involved in that one there. Bozza says the morons do anything for clicks when they just mention Collingwood. I think when it gets slow and it gets tiring and there's not much happening and you're only talking about, Richmond, you're only talking about, North Melbourne, even Melbourne with Spargo. I mean, this stuff isn't going to sell headlines. Fiorini, he had a good season. He's not going to sell headlines going to Essendon. I mean, Collingwood had a chance of picking him up, and there was more, talk about that. Flanders is probably the only big one, choosing St Kilda. We obviously know Silvani and TDK, but that was yesterday's news. That was all season's news. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff and the tabloid stuff and all that type of crap. So Jeanette said they're all ridiculous, those journos. So over the rubbish. Stars is in. Kev's Magpies is in. Ben said, do they realise that every time they make a headline, they are losing credibility? Probably. He goes, or is it just worth the clicks and advertising for him? Probably a bit of both. Matt's in the house. G'day, Matt. Good to have you in. And Mello has said it proves that the trade period goes on for too long when journos do anything for clicks. So just on my theory, before I get some people in the chat, and the link, the StreamYard link is in there. I'll just pop it in there again. So if anybody wants it, they can jump in, have your say. I'll be on for an hour tonight. So we can even go through some of the tweets that I did and I can explain them because I know there'll be some non-Collingwood supporters or some Collingwood supporters who will be in there that, we're really good at getting on the keyboard today. When here's your chance, the link's on there. So jump on so we can have a chat. Because I like to troll the trolls. Matt's just gone, season's over. They need clicks to eat, pretty much. I forgot what I was just about to say anyway, but it doesn't matter. Let's get Kev, sorry, not Kev. Kev, you're second in line. Let's get Sean on. Let's put him on there. Sean, how are you, mate?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. What's the news, mate? What have you got for me tonight? What do you want to talk about?
Oh god, there's nothing really specifically. Just probably just the fact that how good the club's running, the fact that we're just in such a good position from a list structure point of view. Obviously they're not locked in yet, but obviously time will tell when that happens. Getting that inside mid of Clayton Oliver and P forward of Buller from a system and structure point of view, it's just huge. So it's I don't know if people are ready for, and especially with Oliver, like just real quick, I just don't see Oliver. Is there a risk? I mean, I'm sure, but there's like a risk with anything, right? But I think at the end of the day, you have someone, and I know that the whole Nick Dacos thing, like he needs support. I look at it from a perspective of Long. I think giving Long a partner in prime, I think that's a massive thing because you can throw Long on a wing. You know, we know his athleticism is extremely underrated for those who don't know. Um, I feel like the role of him playing on the outside doesn't get spoken about as much. We know he can play inside as well, but I
Mm.
think I think he's the one that sort of floats in that primary and the secondary role, like in and out. Where Clary, I think he's if we do get him, obviously he's the one that's that inside ball that wins the footy. I guess probably what Tom Mitchell was supposed to do this year is probably the role that Clary's trying to get. And
Mm.
I think everyone that watches this, and all the other channels knows that I've been a huge um, advocate for we need to get a traditional full forward. Buller is that. So the fact that we're not just having 3, 4 centre half forwards and going,
Mm.
yeah, that's enough. The fact that we've actually gotten a traditional full forward, that's going to be that awesome balance that we now finally have. Because as much as we can throw McStay in the goal square and have him playing full forward. Not that we really did it that much this year, and that's what probably affected his form. But yeah, now that Mycheck has gone off to Melbourne, I've been tired of that narrative for so long of having Mycheck in the forward line and being someone that's 192 centimeters. Try to be that monster key forward. I mean, it's worked to the point where it's gotten us through a flag, but I don't think
Mm.
Mycheck specifically got us that flag. There was other factors.
Oh, obviously there was a
But
contribution and stuff like that by him, but he wasn't the
yeah,
sole focus or anything like that. And I totally
yeah,
understand what you're saying there too. I think,
yeah.
if anything, McStay was a massive part of that leading into the grand final. But with that being said, so just to backtrack, a few seconds before when you were talking about Buller specifically, like obviously going into this trade period, Lepic has come out and said, the forward line wasn't the main focus, it wasn't the sole focus. Obviously, the biggest focus that we've got is the midfield, and we can talk about Oliver, Humphreys, Butters, and whatever it is coming in or potentially coming into the side in the next, couple of days to 12 months or whatever it is. But just on Buller itself, I didn't really notice him too much towards the back end of the season. Probably the last few weeks, you start to sort of notice these things when you're watching games, and obviously when it dictates where Collingwood is in the ladder. For example, the Sydney Brisbane game and stuff like that, and you start to see these things, and you start to see players and stuff. Now, from what I could see of Buller, I thought he was pretty awesome. And I've got a few Sydney mates, and Nathan from the Hopper Bros Barbecue, one of the main sponsors of the show, his brother is a Sydney supporter, and he's spewing that Buller has requested a trade to Collingwood. Now, I'm not sure if he's a direct Mycheck replacement, but there becomes that hole in the forward line where we can have someone like him. My question to you, Sean, is, and I know we've spoken, off air and stuff like that about it, what do you think is an adequate trade for Buller? What do you think gets it over the line? Because we haven't seen it go over yet. We haven't seen anyone come to the Pies just yet. There's lots of talk about all these different players and stuff, but what do you think gets that deal done and over the line?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. For me personally, I think if we're just going just off of one pick, I think a third round is probably best of both parties. If we got him for a third round pick, I'd be happy with that. Um,
Hmm.
and that's probably because he's out of contract, which also probably lessens his trade value as well.
Yeah.
But for me personally, like this is, and again, this might be a bit of a hot and stuff. Like, I don't know if he's going to be to the level of a Tom Lynch, but like he can play that similar role and like running patterns and things like that to a Tom Lynch.
Hmm.
Obviously, we're not probably going to get Tom Lynch in his prime out of this guy. Like that's probably too far fetched. But I think if that's what you're like sort of looking at, you probably like our second round pick is even a late second. To me
Well,
personally, like
I think our
I wouldn't
first round
even.
pick. I think our first second round pick is pick 38 at the moment. That's where it is at the moment. We haven't given it
Yeah,
away or anything just yet, so it is a fairly
yeah,
late pick in the draft.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like for me, I would like. I don't know if I would do that trade and stuff because you can get him cheaper, right? Like why pay more when you can get him cheaper, right? But but I'm really ironically like I'm so bullish on this kid because yeah, like I'm really I'm probably not seeing in terms like a mirror. He's not Tom Lynch, right? But just the way and the role that we want to have him play, it really kind of seems like we're trying to have him be in that Tom Lynch sort of role.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he's 199 centimeters. You know, he's really good out on the lead. Pretty good set shot. Like, you know, it's just obviously the club's backing him in. Lepage likes him, and Lepage was a key forward in his day, so he would know probably more than most, given that he's actually lived that life as well. Yeah, like yeah, it's one of those things when you're happy to back them in, you're happy to pay a decent price. But yeah,
Well,
I reckon it'll probably end up
Gunners
being the
just left
third
the
round.
Gunners has left the comment here, which I am going through the comments as we're talking, and he says Sydney's comments today is them pushing for a future second on Bullet. If we pay more than a third for a guy who has played 11 games and was a mid-season rookie out of contract, that would be overs.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, like for me personally, like if it was a second, I don't think I would be looking at that trade being like. But again, that's me in my opinion in terms of like how I see him and what potential value he has. Yes, you can look at it and go, he's played 11 games. What has he done? And again, that's probably what gets into the third round, like a third round pick. But
Yeah.
But as I said, like if you rate the kid, you know.
Well, if they think that he can fit into the system, then obviously that's you're going to go for it regardless. You know, if you think it can fit in, and you got to pay what might look like some overs or anything like that, then you know it is what it is. What's your take? Just moving on really quickly. What's your take on the whole Tom McGuan side of things before I start my opinion on it? What's your thoughts on the whole Tom McGuan situation?
I mean, yeah. I mean, when I first heard it, like I basically fell off my chair in just shock, trying to just understand it because I think that's probably the thing that I think most supporters when they heard it, I think we've all sort of done our theories, our brainstorming of like why have we gone down this path? But yeah, you look at the VFL games he played. He didn't star in his VFL games. In fact, he was very average to be kind, and in fact, actually very kind. If you look at his champs, like he didn't necessarily have any champs games that like stood out where like McCarthy did. I'm probably more surprised over the fact that even though I do believe that McCarthy's the better out of the three, but I'm probably more surprised that Bina's probably rated potentially higher. Because again, we don't know if Saxena is going to be a national pick or a rookie pick. I'm assuming he's a rookie pick, but the idea of even Saxena didn't even play all of the champs as well too. Because
but he was a late bloomer, but he peaked. That's it. And that's the thing that I was going to say. Like in comparison to the two, like McGuan had that really good, obviously, start to the whole season. You know, he obviously also played senior footy in the EDFL. And let's be real, the EDFL is a very strong competition. He was playing for Keilor. He was playing against, you know, grown men and probably some of the best like local football sides in the country are in that competition alone. So he was getting that sort of that match hardened experience there. But I think the biggest issue is, you know, Collingwood have always said that if he was going to get nominated, so if we nominated him for the father-son and someone bid on him within the top 15 to 20, Collingwood were never going to match that pick for him. Collingwood were never going to think they were just going to let him walk, right?
Yeah.
I still think it's good the fact that we have said to him, we will pick you up as a rookie regardless. We are committed to doing that in one of the rookie spots. The thing is, though, his AFL dream is not over. He is going to play AFL one way or another, whether it's with us or with somebody else, because if it's with somebody else, they'll snap him up. And if no one does, and they're a bit put off because we sort of got put off by it, and they're probably thinking it could just turn out to be another Callum or Tyler Brown, whatever, but we're still going to give him the shot. Now, it could be
just real quick, because this was something I was thinking about either today or yesterday. What do you think of the chances? Because I know this is probably going to be a bit of a sore point for some people, but what do you think of the genuine chances of Thomas McGuan doing an Ollie Henry, and if clubs are actually factoring that into their selection when they
as in like they know that deep down, like, oh, he'll play for a few seasons and then just want to go to Collingwood afterwards? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm going to put myself in his shoes. You've played some VFL games for us, which, let's be real, you didn't star in. I mean, you had a couple of good little moments here and there, some cameos and stuff, but you weren't a superstar in those games. And this is no disrespect. This is just from what I observed watching it on TV, because I didn't go to the games. I watched them.
Yeah.
So you didn't light it up or anything like that. They've obviously always rated him a little bit lower. So there's always been that perception in the whole thing as well. So, I mean, if I was him, I'd be saying to you as well, fuck yous, really. If I'm him, if I get picked up by somebody else, I'm going. It's not as if he's got a sibling that's already been picked up by the club and is already playing there. And I was literally just about to say this, and Manny's just put it up on the thing. He has not. He's been training at the club. They have seen him up close. Has he not been training at the club? They've seen him up close. Of course they have. He trained with the main group. He's trained with the VFL. They've obviously can see that he's got some sort of ability. There is something there, but it's not like it is with the Dacos boys. And you have to use the Dacos boys as a comparison in this. And I know it's a big one, but it's the same situation. You have to. You look at the Browns. You've got to use the Browns as well. I mean, Callum, not really. He was sort of just a good squad player for a couple of years, and then obviously there was a bit more hype around Tyler Brown because he was smashing it in the twos or whatever it was. He came in and he didn't really set the world alight, and within a couple of years they're both gone. And I think Callum's still playing VFL at the moment. So I don't know. I'm just not sold on it. I think the club's made a decision that needed to be made, and the fact that they've sat him down last week and they've told him before it came out in the media, I think is respectful, even though, judging by the character that Mick McGuan is, he's probably really shitty about it, and you'd think he's disappointed with the whole thing. But I mean, we've got to look at what's best for the club. I mean, it's it's a shame because we've got an aging list now, and we need to top up with the youth. But if the club is in a position where, hey, we're going to try and get these players in that are good age, that's going to be serving us for a long time, that's going to make an immediate impact. If they can see that there's a person that's primed for that type of role, but they don't rate them that much, if our club is saying we can't commit, then there's something wrong. There's something there that's not right. And I think that's something that we'll have to sort of understand. It's disappointing because I think the most disappointing part about it is that we've been holding on to this hope that number 34 is going to be debuting for Collingwood round 1, 2026 next to Nick Dacos. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We've held on for this now for the last 2 seasons. That,
but also as well, it also means that we're not giving out charity games as well too. Because you look at it and it's and the thing I think I've been saying is for the majority of the year. I've said that I see Josh Dacos. I see a Josh Dacos situation with McGuan, and I feel like I've said that all year. And I think that just shows that the club's not willing to, even though obviously Josh Dacos had his career and everything's worked out, but I feel like we're not in the position to back in a Josh Dacos scenario.
Yeah, I mean, well, with Josh, I mean, we're pretty lucky that he didn't get delisted. after I thought 2018, 2019 or whatever it was, and then look what happened. Just a fresh voice came in after the whole COVID stuff, and yeah, but he did shine in 2020, so he sort of came into his own. But I
Yeah, of
think
course.
that was just it was going down a very treacherous path there, and it sort of peaked at the right time, which was fantastic. Just before I let you go, Sean,
Hmm.
the two others that we're going to pick up in the draft. So we're looking at McCarthy, who is realistically, I think he'll probably get bid on.
Mhm.
So we've got to try and make sure that we've got the points for him. I think he was like 630 points alone if he got bid on or something like that. And then we've also got Jess Saxena, who we spoke about just before, but his back half of the year, so pretty much from halfway to the season until the end of the Talents League, he was one of the rising stars. And he was pretty much, making massive impacts. And I am working vigorously behind the scenes to try and get him on after the draft period on the channel for a quick chat, which I think will be pretty awesome if I can get him on. Just a pre-recorded video, have a bit of a chat with him about his journey. I'm going to try my hardest to get him on because I think it'll be really interesting to see, especially from someone who wasn't really noticed that much in the media and stuff like that from a football media point of view, not
Yeah.
like, mainstream media, but just like, football social media, the talk around the traps when it comes to, the kids and stuff like that. And then obviously you hear about in draft week, like, their household names, so to speak. Do you think he can make a massive impact straight away if he was to come into the side based on what we're hearing at the moment?
Um, you speaking about both McCarthy and Saxena?
Well, yeah, both of them. Like, what do you think about both of them?
Um, yeah, I think McCarthy. I think his frame is just too small. I'd be shocked if he gets a game first year, just because it takes time to build. But I feel like our list is in a position where we can be patient with a guy like that because his champs games. He actually showed. You can't like it's really hard to sort of the way that he does be as lightly framed and still. There was games where he had, I think he hit 3 goals and had 20 disposals. Like for a kid to be that sort of thin frame, but to put out performances like that, you just cannot ignore that. Um, Yeah, Saxena had moments where he looked really, really good, but I feel like he had twice as many moments where he probably looked like worse.
Hmm.
Um, and when he played for the Oakley Chargers, that's when he was like, shining. And I think there was a game where he kicked 5 goals, had like 20 odd disposals. But again, in the league, they don't really like tag in those games because he didn't
Hmm.
have a tag. He was able to shine for a bit. But then again, you can also look at it in the sense of when he comes into the AFL, VFL, whichever he starts off with, since when is he going to start with the tag on him? So, um, yeah, so I think that could also be a as well, the fact you've got some development as a player that got tagged. So that's some experience that he now has.
Yeah. There was a
Yeah,
question put in there was a question put in the chat too, and I know, and I'm going to ask you this also because we've spoken about him privately quite a bit, and you've been pretty keen on him. The whole Jacob Blight situation, you're a big fan of him coming into the side, and it looks as if from what we're from what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing, and it was said afterwards that he will be picked up at Collingwood either as a delisted free agent or through the SSP. What are your thoughts on him, and what have you seen from him coming from the Tigers?
well, I mean, it's, I mean, ironically, because he's like been a Richmond player, he just, ever since I've like seen, listened to him in like interviews and stuff, he just sounds like a fly guy. We're saying that, but like he just sounds like a fly type of person. Like he's
Hmm.
very positive, always on the front foot, wanting to get better every day. Just it was just one of those things like I just sort of picked up on. I just thought, okay, this is interesting. Like Then just, the way that he was like playing, he's a key defender. Oh, we need a key defender. Can also play off his man a bit too. He's, I believe, somewhere around like 24 years of age, so he's also mature age, so we don't have to go through the draft and wait for the kid to physically develop, and wait 2 to 3 years for him to come good physically.
Hmm.
I just think he's a plug and play type. Probably
Yeah.
wouldn't get a game in front of obviously like Moore and Frampton, and probably maybe doesn't get a game ahead of Reef at this point. But
I
with
think
the
it's just
fact
the
that
depth,
he's like,
though. I think it's the depth and the stocks
yeah,
that we need. We're just like, if one falls, the next soldier sort of comes up. And we saw that this season with players like Charlie Dean. And I know,
yeah,
he's
he's a
been
massive
delisted, but
upgrade, Charlie Dean.
yeah, but
He's a
like we had
massive
to, but that's good. And we had to obviously
yeah,
call upon him, when Frampton went down, when obviously we lost to Reef at the same time. So, these things tend to happen. Sean, I've got a few people on now, so I'm going to let you
Yep.
go. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Good.
And if there's anything else, just chuck it in the chat. But I will keep
Yeah,
everyone
absolutely.
updated via Twitter and Instagram and everything if I hear anything more about what's going on in the trade landscape. Thank you so much for jumping on, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, all good. Happy to help out, and yeah, let's hope we have an awesome trade period and we get the players that we want, and have a massive 2026.
That'd be nice. Thanks, Shawnee. Appreciate it, buddy. All right. There's a few people now that are coming on, which is pretty good. I'm going to get Kev's Magpies on for a bit because I've got Mick Sacker in the background. Kev, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. What are you taking out of this whole trade situation? What's your opinion on it all?
The fact that we've told Mitchell to look elsewhere, Mason Cox is saying, I think it's good from a club's point of view that we are making these tough calls. Yes, we are interested in Clayton Oliver, and I think he'll be handy for us, especially in that midfield. And I reckon he will give Nick Dacos a bit of a break, as in terms of he won't be the number one guy. That if Nick Dacos gets tagged, then you've got Clayton Oliver that can do some damage as well. So there are definitely options that we need to have.
Do you think you can play just quickly on that too, though? So, like, if Clayton Oliver comes into the side, if he does select Collingwood, and we do have, I'll put this out there so everyone knows, and I haven't told the meeting potentially could be tomorrow with Clayton Oliver, so it's going to happen pretty quickly. There's a whole media circus right now saying that he's chosen GWS, as I said in my opening sort of bits and stuff like that. But let's not jump the gun because the Pies wouldn't be flying up there to talk to him if he'd chosen, and if he'd chosen before he actually spoke to Collingwood. I'm pretty sure Collingwood would be pretty pissed off that they've paid the money to send somebody into state just to get back on a plane and come home for no reason, albeit being a 1 hour flight. Now, if we are to get Clayton Oliver into the side, do you think it will affect someone like a Ned Long playing that inside mid, feeding the ball out to players like Nick, to Josh, to potentially a Dan Houston getting the run through the middle, feeding it out from a pack to Isaac Quaynor running down to a Jack Crisp? Do you think it's going to affect Ned Long?
It may, but it may not, in a way. It could actually help Ned Long out a little bit more in terms of Ned Long can just do what he needs to do. Like, you can have Oliver, Dacos, and Ned Long in, and you can have, like, DeGoey, Crisp on wing.
Do you think that DeGoey plays up forward? I was about to say, do you think he plays up forward if we do get someone like Clayton Oliver in? Does he play up forward, or do you have a starting midfield of Darcy Cameron, Clayton Oliver, Nick Dacos, and Jordan DeGoey in the first ball up of opening round?
I think Jordan DeGoey will play up forward. I think we need to look after his body. What we've done so far has worked, and I think it's good that you can play him in patches up in the midfield, but also the fact is that you've got that in your armour that you can use, and nobody knows when Jordan DeGoey is going to go in the midfield. No one knows who they're going to tag. Like, if Nick Dacos gets tagged, who else is going to get off the tag? Like an Oliver, a Long, Josh Dacos, they're sorts of guys. Nobody will be knowing who's going to be in the midfield first. No one knows who they're going to stop. If you got Jordan to go out forward, it helps with the way that he can play that forward mid row and what he did in 2018. He can trying to get that way. Play that same way. Like back when he was in 2018.
There is a bit of an unpredictability if Jordan De Goey goes up forward and stuff like that too. So we'll obviously have to see what happens. Obviously, as I said before, GWS have, interviewed him and stuff. So we'll see what happens in that sense there. Just a final quick thought from you, Kev. The Copeland Trophy. Nick Dacos finishing second. Darcy Cameron taking out the Copeland Trophy. Much deserved, you would think?
Yeah, definitely. He deserves it because he's been our number one ruckman for a long time now, since Grundy left. And for him to do intercept marks in defence, go up forward, take marks, and either kick goals or do that little kick over the top or handball to like a De Goey type, I think that he's definitely had a good year as well. So, yeah, well deserved.
Kev, I appreciate your support for the channel from day one. You've been amazing. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight, contributing in the chat still. I've got to get Mick Sacker on, but I appreciate your patience and for coming on. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, mate. See ya.
All right. We're about to get an absolute legend on right now, and he's been waiting in the back, and I've been texting him just quietly behind the scenes here, and he's jumping on right now. And if you haven't already checked out our 3-part season review of the Collingwood 2025 season, please do. It's probably about 2.5, 3 hours worth of your time, which is a lot. But guess what? It's just fucking Collingwood, just Nuffy bias, and I'm sure you all love it. So I'm about to get him on. Mr. Heidelberg United himself, Mr. Mick Sacker. What's happening, mate? How are you? And how's the elbow from the Australia Cup final?
Yeah, it's much better, man. I got so smashed at that game that I totally, when I woke up the next morning and I had a sore elbow, I'm like, why have I got a sore elbow? Then I realized, oh fuck, I fucking killed myself when we scored, because we all when Heidelberg scored in the first 5 minutes, we all fucking ran towards the gate, and it was like a stampede, man. And we went fucking ass over tit, but it's all good, man. No worries.
I want to before we get into the absolute, shit show of the trade period, and we'll talk about stuff in a second. I just wanted to quickly touch on something with you that not a lot of people would know, and you're the perfect personification of this subject. I think it was the 1996 NSL season. Heidelberg had merged with the Collingwood Football Club to create the Collingwood Warriors, and
yes.
they were based out of Victoria Park.
Yep.
I actually think I was ball boy for one of the games there at Victoria Park for them.
All right.
Me and my old man used to go to Heidelberg games and stuff. It was the 96-97 season. Now, Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I remember that Collingwood Warriors actually won the pre-season tournament leading into the competition that year. Was that correct? There was a cup tournament leading into the actual season?
Look, I'm not going to profess to be a club historian, but from what I remember, there was early success, and then it just dwindled into nothingness. But if you talk to people around the club, like Heidelberg, a lot of them say that concept should have worked. Everything was there was so many things going for it, but as it is with the sport of soccer, football in Australia, mate, the administration on a national level, it's always been an absolute shambles. And, it's just, petered out. And Kevin Rose, who was the Collingwood president at the time, I don't think he helped much.
Yeah, so we can see here, I've just shared the screen. So this is the actual top And I know we're
Yeah.
getting off topic now, and everyone's probably thinking like, "What the fuck?" Blah blah blah. But just for those of you who don't know, obviously Heidelberg United made the FA Cup or Australia Cup final, which is the premier knockout competition of Australian soccer football. And for a team that obviously plays in the Victorian Premier League and is now moving into the Australian Championship, which is the second highest tier of football, this is massive for them to make a final. They almost won it. They were knocking out A-League sides going forward. So we're just going to have a quick flashback down memory lane. I believe at the start of the season, their Collingwood Warriors were absolutely fantastic. They won their first few games, and then the sad part was they got into the collywobbles situation, and they lost like 10 games in a row, and they were going towards the bottom, which was a bit sad. But awesome top, you've got and the thing that I love about it the most, and as I've gotten older, and we'll get back to the football side of things, like the AFL side of things in a second, but I just want to touch on this really quickly that I've got Mick in there. Coming from where like Heidelberg were created in the back in the day, from expats from Florina up in the northern part of Greece and stuff. When Collingwood merged with Heidelberg, it sort of brought the PAOK aspect and the artist aspect, the northern aspects of Greek football to get together, and it personified in this top. And I'll look at it now, and I can see PAOK, I can see Aris, I can see Thessaloniki, I can see Halkidiki, I can see the northern, like it just screams the northern part of Greece. And I think that's it's a shame it didn't work out, because I mean, can you imagine a Collingwood powerhouse in the world of the round ball would be absolutely amazing. But I just thought I'd share that with everybody. I know people are probably thinking, what the hell? But there's a bit of a history lesson there for you all. Now moving on to the trade debacle, the trade fiasco that's happening at the moment. I said it in my first jab, so I'm not sure if you're if you heard my first jab and stuff like that, but I had three of them, and it was the fact that they brought up all this trade nonsense about Nick Dacos. They brought up all this trade nonsense about Jordan De Goey, which John Roth contradicted himself and said no one's spoken about it, but he still goes and speaks about it. And then you've also got the whole thing about so Nick Dacos and obviously Bobby Hill or whatever it was, all these speculation and stuff coming out about Collingwood, and like while we're trying to land a semi-big fish in Clayton Oliver. I mean, can you get your head around what's going on in this trade period?
I can't. It's absolute crazy season at the moment, but it makes for good talking points. And look, I just hope we end up with someone good. Now, big shout out to Manny Costo in the chat. I fucking miss you, brother. Can't wait till you get back. Hope all is well with your loved ones over there. But I have to disagree with you on this point, Manny. I'm probably the only Collingwood supporter at the moment that's against the Oliver potential acquisition. I know we're paying fuck all of his salary and all that, but I'm looking at it from a culture perspective, and we seem to be, we've got a great culture at the club, and that goes a long way to the boys performing. Like even the two party boys like Geordie and Bo, they've settled down now. So it's a good environment for youngsters coming up to see these professional guys going about it. And then you throw in someone like Oliver that walks around the streets ripping off fucking windscreen wipers off people's cars, or driving his meth addicted mates to the hospital and leaving him there and stuff like that. Oh man, look, I hope I'm totally wrong on all this, but I just don't want that kind of injection into the club. Ultimate greatness. What's he saying? I love Sean, man.
He says, think about it like this: Jordan De Goey will guide Clary the right way. Here you go. Here you go. Let's see if he's there. Manny, you there, brother?
Here he is, mate.
Hey, Mick, what are you worried about today? Yasurega Moto, Yasu Andreas. What are you doing, lad? How are you, bro?
Stargigiamo, mate. Stargigiamo. That's what I'm doing. Bro.
Hey,
I'm gonna have a
Hey,
smoke now. I don't know what your
no. Stay there. Stay there. I love you there. I've missed you, bro. Listen there.
No,
Don't worry
he's in
about
his
Cody. You know
garage.
what you
He's
do
puffing
there?
up. Don't worry.
Hey, Mick. You know what us Greeks good at doing there? We're good at doing contrato, right? In the contract, you put it in there. Hey, listen, Clayton Oliver, dickhead. You come to the club, right? And you don't perform. You know what happens? You sit in the VFL on $500,000 a year, like we're doing with AJ and Finn McRae, right? We're paying them to play in the VFL. Yeah, hold on, I'll be back soon. I'm on the phone, darling. Yeah, I'll get you one. Oh, come on. I'm on the phone now. Go see Papu. Come on. Go see Papu. I'm on the phone. Go see Papu. Hey, little shit. Yeah, they're all up here. Hey.
you can't beat the
So
live streams.
So
mate.
you know what we do there? We get him for bargain wage, right? If he's a 4-time best and fairest, 2 times All Australian. If we can get half the output out of him, right? We're laughing. You know what? If he misbehaves there, put him in the VFL. And you know what? If he's at training and he plays up, send him home there. What do you got to lose there? It's only $500,000 there. Big deal.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Look,
Look,
I get that. Can I just say quickly on this? I'm 100% like gonna play straight down the line. I see both your points 110% clearly. The only thing for me that I reckon is the factor that gets this over the line, should he choose Collingwood. Let's be real. There's obviously a very strong possibility that he won't choose the Pies. He could choose GWS. If this was to happen, I genuinely don't think that his off-field stuff is going to transfer to our football club. I think the culture at our football club is completely different to the Simon Goodwin culture at Melbourne, and I think it's going to be different to the Stephen King culture at Melbourne too, and I think they're just not going to put up with it, and they're not going to put themselves in a position where it can happen. Whereas I think at Collingwood it's totally different, and we have enough players that can obviously put him in line and help him through. But with that being said, you do obviously run the risk of whatever he can do. But for $600,000 a year, like that's peanuts. That's peanuts.
You know how he'd be fine at Collingwood, because I'll read between the lines, right? Now, when he said the malaki that he said today, you know what he said? When he said that Collingwood is a better club than Melbourne, I knew straight away that he hates Melbourne. For a club to come out, premiership player, and say that you hate the club, right? Something was going on at that club. He was hating his time there. He was frustrated, right? That's why he's mucking up and playing up like an idiot. I reckon if he gets to Collingwood, he plays in front of 90,000 fans, not in front of 25,000 Malaki that's out of there. No crowds, nothing. Right? You get Bruzzy, you get Pendlebury, you get Sidebottom. You've got Nick Dacos there. Right? Round him up. And as I said, if he plays up, you know what you do? You put your foot down on him and you get him back in the VFL. Simple. End of story. Because you know what's going to happen now? I reckon we're going to have a poor trade period. I reckon the only player we're going to pick up is that bloke from Sydney, Buller, and still he's coming on potential. He's only kicked only 11 goals out of 9 matches. So he's not full on forward. And I'd rather play Westy before him, because if he comes in and plays before Westy's going to see him and say, "Oh, what am I doing, wasting my time?" He asked for a trade, and then we'll lose Westy as well.
I don't think we'll lose Westy, but we've got to make sure that we can give him every single opportunity that to play and to shine this season. Next season, we've got to give him pretty much the keys to the forward line and say, "Listen, McStay's going to be up there, Membry's going to be up there. You know, you're going to be there, and Elliott's going to be there, and you know, probably a Schultz and a Bobby Hill, and there's your forward line ready to go. So it's yours if you want it. Take it." The Buller side of things, does he come straight into the side? Who knows? And the other thing too is, we still need to try to work out with Sydney what pick that we're going to do. I'm okay if it's a future second. I'm okay if it's a future third. I'm okay if it's 2 future thirds. I don't really care what it is, as long as it doesn't affect our NGA picks for McCarthy and for Saxena, then that's fine. Manny, just your quick thoughts on the whole Tom McGuan situation?
Put it this way, they've seen him train at the club. They've watched him because the AFL changed the rules, right? And you've got to pay more for father-sons now, right? It's too expensive, and they opted not to pick him. So they out of respect for his old man, the gun, McGuan, I grew up watching him. Out of respect for the old man, they would have said to him, that's what they spoke to him early. They put him aside, spoke to him. They would have said, hey, listen, we're not going to draft you early, but if you fall down the line, then we'll pick you up out of respect for his old man. But he hasn't got it in him there. They've seen him, you know what I mean? He hasn't got it. Nick was training at the club when he was 16. They saw Nick training. They picked him up straight away. McGuan's been there for a couple of years now. They've seen him train, and they've been watching him closely. I don't think he's up to it. That's why.
There's reports saying obviously they think he's too small for his position or whatever it is. I don't think he had the greatest time, obviously, in the VFL. He was on managed minutes as well for a youngster coming in. So, you know, I mean, and this could all be said, and then he turns around and gets picked up for another club like a Carlton, Essendon, or Richmond or whatever it is, and turns out to be an absolute gun. I mean, that's just going to have egg on our face, and that's a likely situation to happen. But I think it's more or less if, and I said this before to Sean, if the club genuinely doesn't see something with the bad luck that we've had with the Browns, you know, we had to go through two cloaks to get the one that was half decent. You know, we had to go through the ups and down topsy-turvy times of, you know, both Shaw brothers as well, you know, and then obviously the Braden aspect didn't work out either. You know, we've had all that type of stuff. You know, they've got to do their due diligence and they've got to do it properly. And I said before, it's not like he had a sibling there already where it's like, oh, you know, we've got to get him, blah blah blah. You know, if the sibling was good or half decent or whatever it is, he's on his own. You know, and I think also we've got this perception in our minds. Oh, it's a 1990 Premiership player. Could this be another Peter Dacos' son? I don't want it to be like that. I don't want us to pick him up and just hope that, oh, this kid's going to be the next Nick Dacos. You know what I mean? Because these Dacos is a generational player. He's a once in a generation. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They watched him at training day. Like Nick was. The coaches said Nick was cutting it up. They're watching Tom McGuan at training with the senior boys, right, doing match sim, and they've seen he hasn't been able to cut it up. Right, or match it with them, and they pulled the pin on him. I'll guarantee you there, if he was a good player, the club would have stepped him up first draft round straight away.
Yeah, I reckon. Look, I reckon we'll still eventually get him, and I reckon he'll be a decent player. But you know, he's just not shining through with all the other youngsters. That, you know, there's so much to compete with these young boys. He'll come good, but he won't be a superstar. But he'll be all right. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I reckon it's going to be a poor trade period for us. I reckon we're not going to pick up anyone, and we're just going to go back to the status quo for next year with a bit younger list. Ella.
Would you take Butters if it means that we have to somehow offload one or two of Bobby, Bo, or Geordie?
Mick, listen. Let me tell you something, bro. Let me tell you something. You know, you out of all people should know how the club operates there. This talk about Bobby is not just trade there; it goes a lot deeper. The club there, it worries about its fabric, right? So they don't put players on the trade table there. Bobby's a Premiership player. They don't do that with Premiership players. I've seen the club for a long time. I've noticed that the club. Yeah. Because of the fabric and the culture, they refuse to disrespect our players. And like Nick Dacos was good. We're going to make him captain before Tassie comes because they're going to offer him $5 million in the first year. But I'll guarantee you, Nick Dacos watches his old man Peter, and the Collingwood Football Club to this day still looks after Peter Dacos because Collingwood looks after their players even after they retire. The club looks after the players, bro.
Yeah,
I think that's a massive thing.
When Anthony talks about trading Bobby and it's like a transaction, like it's a business. No. It's not a business. The Collingwood Football Club, they don't look at it as a business. It's part of the fabric of the club. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why they don't want to. That's why you've seen this trade period. I've never seen it before. You can see players running out of their clubs. How many players want to leave their clubs? But Collingwood, we've got no players. See, they all want to take off from their clubs, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm
Go, Andres.
I'm under the impression that in 12 months' time, because it's not going to, I don't think it's going to happen this year. I don't think the Butters
No.
side of things is going to happen, regardless, even if you turn around to Port Adelaide right now and said, get me the fuck out of here, get me to Victoria, get me to Collingwood, Carlton, fucking St Kilda, wherever, Bulldogs, wherever it is, yeah? Even Hawthorn. Port Adelaide, they could have the first 5 picks in the draft. They're not going to get rid of him this season. They're going to hold on to him for the free agency side of things because they'll be maximum compensated in a better draft next season for him. That's all said and done. However, if we had to lose a premiership player who was aging on or had issues, I'm all for it for the benefit of the club moving forward, regardless of how sad it is the player leaving or whatever. If let's just say we had an underdone Jordan De Goey in this season who didn't do anything, was ravaged by injuries and stuff all season, and we're not going to get the 2023 final series, or the 2025 end of season Jordan De Goey ever again. See you later. Whatever's better for the club. I think we need to stop.
I don't think they'll do it, bro. I'll do it as well. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you as well, but I don't think the club will do it, bro. I don't think they'll do it because I've seen it for a long time, bro. I don't think they'll put premiership players like that on the trade table. They'll work around the corner and do it some other way. I don't think
they'll do what they did. I think they'll do what they did now with Mason Cox and what they're doing with Tom Mitchell, and not offering them a contract and seeing what happens, and then delisting them or moving on or calling retirement. The only difference between now and next year is this time next year, one of or even 2 of the 3, Pendlebury, Sidebottom and Howe, isn't going to be there. I think we're going to lose 2 of them in 12 months. I think Howe retires and I think Pendles retires. I think Sidey goes on for another season or 2. Okay? So I think Sidey will try and get close to the 400. He's still got a bit more run left in him. I think Pendles is on his last legs now, and Howe, I think, is just making up the numbers. And I don't even think Howe's going to play every game next year. I think it's going to be more of a developmental role within the club for our young defenders and stuff like that. That being said, when we lose them, you're going to have to acquire players into the football club that demand respect, that demand leadership. So we're going to have the new wave of players and stuff coming through. And that's where I think in 12 months' time, the Zach Butter side of things is going to be our number 1 target. And I just wish that we can land someone like an Oliver this season, like now, because he will fit the role perfectly for one season before we get someone like a Butters trying to come into the side. He will work with Nick, and then you have the class of Butters oozing. Now, I know there could be non-Collingwood supporters watching this and they're thinking, fuck, this guy's delusional. He's thinking they're going to get all this. We are going after everybody we possibly can, and even if it takes 12 or 24 months, we will plan to contend for a premiership every single season from now to the next 5-10 years. I think we're too big of a club to bottom out. We're too big of a club to go for a full reset. This is why, personally, I'm a big fan of the wild card if it does come in, because if we were to finish just outside the 8 and we're playing in form, can you imagine in 2024 if there was a wild card round in and how hot we're finishing towards the end of the season? We would have made a semi-final or a prelim final if we had kept going. Yeah. We beat the Premiers, on the MCG just before the finals. You know what I mean? So I think that we just got to get ourselves in a position to land these players, but if it means that we have to sacrifice a premiership player here and there, so be it. You look at the side that we had in the 2023 grand final: Nathan Murphy, Jack Ginnivan, Mason Cox, Oleg Markov, Tom Mitchell, Brody Mychek. 6 players, all gone. Hoskin Elliott, gone.
Yeah. And so we've got to turn it over slowly, not quickly, maybe over a 3-year period. Turn over, and you know what he's got to do? He's got to inject the youth in. Fly has to inject youth. Just bring him in and give him a go. Give him 5 fucking weeks. Put him in there for 5 weeks. Give him a good run. Let him get used to the speed of the game, right? And even play Westy, right? And give him 5-6 weeks and let him go. See what he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll definitely happen. And with this Buller kid, like he's like 200 centimeters, yeah. So Westy's a bit smaller. Westy's more Myercheck size. So this guy Buller, they're different players. So it's not like choose one or the other. You play them both, mate. Just chuck them both in.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
as long as the midfield's humming, they'll have the opportunities, mate.
So I think Buller will be more of your. I know this is a big comparison, but I'm just the only thing I can think of at the moment. So Buller could potentially be, after a couple of seasons, more like your Rolly Thilthorpe sort of forward. Okay, just a big lead out forward, takes a mark, works on the half forward line, comes in for goal, does that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Charlie West, he's
Fogarty.
going to be a
Fogarty.
Fogarty. Exactly. He is a carbon copy of Fogarty. The way his body size, his body shape, he's got the same neck sort of, like the outline of his body is very similar, and he runs a very similar sort of style as well. So I think they're going to be. I think that's the sort of style that we're going to go for. Whether we can have more acquisitions and that and stuff like that, who knows? Over the next couple of years, I mean, we're going to lose Elliott in 2 years' time, so we're going to try and make sure that we can. The biggest thing for our forward line moving forward from next season is we need to make sure that we can make up the 20-something goals that Myercheck has kicked, and we're going to need to make sure that we can, still keep Elliott to the level that he is, and then hopefully have Bobby inject and kick 30, 40 goals next season to make up sort of the loss of the goals there. Because I know this is going to sound weird, and I'm going to talk about Carlton for a second, but the one thing Carlton didn't do this season, apart from play decent footy, was they didn't replace the scoreboard pressure and the impact on the scoreboard that Matt always left when they pissed him off.
Exactly.
So if you look at what Carlton did, Matt always kicked 30-something goals in 2024, right? He couldn't even play every game at West Coast. He was getting dropped at West Coast. But he played better at Carlton. Carlton didn't have that potent small forward. What's his face? Motlop was too up and down.
Yeah,
It was just all up.
bro.
And they don't. But the thing is, I don't want us to get to that point in the next couple of seasons.
No.
So we've got to make sure that we inject these kids in 100%.
Well, we've got young Hayes that can play a bit of that role, and we also got what's his name, Harvey Harrison, that can play around the forward line as well. So we're not too bad. They've got absolute shit kickers there. They just signed Motlop up for another 2 years on $500-600 a year. He's shocking.
But
They just signed him up there.
They've got no thing, and I just love it how
They just picked up this alien. They just picked up this alien that comes up. Hey, this Lemmy bloke, tell him, who is it? This Lemmy Malaka. Who's this dickhead?
How's this part? They talk about the whole Jamie Elliott signing the contract 650. Oh, you wanted 450. You're paying overs now for him. We're not paying overs for him. These motherfuckers are paying $750,000 next season for Zach Williams.
Yeah,
Exactly. No, there 1.3 there. What are you talking about there? 1.3. Are you crazy?
Why
Well,
is
they're
it
paying
cheap?
him. Are they?
His last
contract?
His back end.
Yeah.
Is it back-ended?
His back ended. They're paying him $1.3 million a season. That's his last year on his contract. It's back ended. 1.3 mil. They're paying him because I've heard him talk about it on the channels. They're losing the plot because they're paying him 1.3, and no one will take him now. So they're gonna play him for one more year. He's probably gonna do 1,000 calves, right? Leave him, they'll be injured, and they're gonna pay 1.3 of the salary cap.
And he's Collingwood and GWS are about to fucking land Clayton Oliver for $600,000 a year. Thank you very much.
I'm taking Oliver. I'm taking Oliver bargain basement wage. Look, hey, we're paying AJ 500, 400. We're paying Finn McRae money. They'll sing in the VFL year. We'll do the same with Oliver. We got rid of Finn. We got rid of AJ. Just give Oliver their contracts. Right, leave him in there. All we need Oliver to do is a shit kick inside 50. We need him extracting the ball for Nick. Get in there, extract the ball. He's quicker than Mitchell. He's a bit quicker than Mitchell. Get in there, extract the ball. Yeah, do handball receives with Geordie and Nick. Get Geordie and Nick on the outside, right, and hit targets inside 50. That's what we want him for there. We don't want him to win us the flag. We want him to help out Nick and Geordie.
Peter Nuts just put this comment on, and I don't agree with it whatsoever. Like he says, we're paying $900K for Houston. All clubs have bad contracts. If Houston has the same season as he did this season, and we're talking about it in 12 months, I'll agree with that statement. But you got to give Houston time to settle into the side. And Lockie Schultz is a perfect example of, just like patience and stuff and persistence.
We paid Houston 900 grand when he was playing like a 900 grand player. We didn't know he was going to play like a shit kicker, right? But we're paying Oliver 500 grand because we're paying him as a 500 grand player. So that doesn't make no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, jury's still in with Houston.
Don't worry, we're the first ones. We're the first
Well-
ones, right? You know what's going to happen. Next season, round 0, if Houston doesn't perform, you know what's going to happen. Chronologicals, Black and White United, we're going to start hammering him. You know what's going to happen. Don't worry about it. We don't miss anyone. All right, boys, I'll let you just go now. I'm going to look after my grandfather. I'll let you just go. Take
All
it
good,
easy.
all good.
Yes,
Enjoy.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks,
mate.
mate.
Appreciate you jumping on, bro.
Catch you later.
that's for me. Take it easy, bro.
All right. Well, I reckon I'm gonna end it here. But if you haven't, guys, already, make sure you jump on to the end of season review that we did for myself, Mick, and Nate from Nate Talks Pies. We jumped on and we did a 3-part series of the season review. We spoke obviously about trades and stuff like that. The Copeland, obviously, in part 3. It's a really good watch. So if you guys have time over the weekend coming up to watch it, it would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you give it a like, and you do follow Mick's channel and also Nate's channel. To everyone who's jumped on tonight, I do appreciate it very much. Mick, any final words before we end it and we just wait for more bullshit tabloid media stuff to be posted on Twitter?
No, nothing much to add. I just I know the next 2 or 3 days it's just going to be more crazy talk. But yeah, let's just enjoy it, have a laugh, and the big deals will happen like right at the end. So
When does when does the trade period finish? Is it next week? Is it next Wednesday or something? Is it like?
I think so, man. I think so. Yeah.
All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you for jumping on, Mick. I really do appreciate it, mate.
No
I'll
worries.
speak to you during the week anyway.
No worries. Catch you later.
So, mate. All right, everybody. That's pretty much the show for tonight. We've had a pretty long one, a big one. It's been great. If you haven't already, please, you can see in the scroll down below, give us a follow on Twitter or X. It's a BW United _ and on Instagram _ Black White United _. We've hit tonight 1,280 subscribers on YouTube, which is phenomenal to think where we were obviously 12 months ago starting off the channel. And, you know, I was doing it from my phone with a microphone that didn't work and stuff. And we've gotten to where we have now is pretty amazing. If you can spare $2.99 a month, buy a membership to the channel. It supports the channel going forward. Make sure you visit the sponsors on Instagram. If there's any other things that you guys want to know, I am working tirelessly behind the scenes to try and get as much information as possible to bring to you guys on Twitter as it comes. Just a disclaimer, some of the stuff that I post on Twitter might be repeating what the journos are saying. I listen to Trade Radio while I'm at work all the time. If I hear something, I'll post it. If I get something from my contact, I will also post that. I do believe from what I'm speaking to people behind the scenes, I am led to believe that Lepic is meeting up with Clayton Oliver tomorrow, if he hasn't already tonight. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't jump the gun early just yet in regards to him saying that I'm going to play for GWS. I think that was a tongue-in-cheek comment he made to Toby Bedford over the weekend, and it's only just been found out now, so it's been reported because the push obviously is very strong for him to go to GWS. I don't think Clayton Oliver's the type of person that wants to pick up his stuff and just leave. He's a big-time player. I think he likes the spotlight more than anything. So we'll see what happens. He could sign for GWS, and if he does, he does. Congratulations to him, whatever. But we're not out of the race just yet. I'll leave it there. Have a good night, everyone. I'll talk to you during the week. Make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.